Hello and welcome to Body Bags. My name is James and I'm your Sunday night reviewer, and this evening I'll be reviewing the Australian film The Tunnel. Now this is a found footage film, but definitely one of the better found footage films that there are out there. I mean, we all know around around the mid-2000s the found footage thing really kicked off. Obviously in the end of the 90s we had The Last Broadcast and the Blair Witch Project, and then this was touched on a few times in the early 2000s, and then it really kicked off. You had lots of films going out, and even Romero himself picking up on obviously Diary of the Dead. But I will be looking at The Tunnel. I think this had its wide release in 2012, but maybe festival release in 2011. This is as I said, it's an Australian film, and it's by Carlo Ledesma. I don't really know too much about Carlo, the director. But actually, I think this is the last feature film that they have done. I think there's a few short films, maybe some TV bits and pieces. But yeah, I think this is the last feature film that's been done. But anyway, we're actually following a news reporting team. So we have there's the person that's doing the story. There's the kind of was it kind of like a producer guy that goes with them. There's the cameraman and the sound man. And they're basically it's the story is that there's some untapped water resource under Sydney, I believe. I think it's Sydney, Australia. It's something to do like an untapped water source. Like there's hundreds of thousands of gallons under the city, and for whatever reason that they don't go into it. That they don't like go and get the water or anything, or it's folklore or something like that. I can't remember. Sorry, I watched this about a week ago now. Actually, it's probably longer than that. I watched this during my 31 days of horror stint that I was doing. Anyway, they start to pick up that there's some folklore, or not really modern day folklore, that there's been some disappearances. There was some people in a tunnel, and there's this YouTube video of some kids doing some graffiti, and something happens there, and the news reporter gets hold of this, and she's pretty interested, and she's like, "There's a story down here of some kind, whether it's some mad crazy person or whatever." So she wants to go down and see it, but she has problems getting the work permits to go and do this. So she lies to say that she has them. But also there's a bit of animosity between the team, because she wants this story. This is her big break. But I think it's the sound guy and the cameraman. They have this big break story somewhere else in the world. Thailand or somewhere like that. Somewhere over in the east. And they get pulled off that to do her story. So they're pretty pissed off with it to start with. There's animosity. They don't think she's very good. Think she's got to where she is by sleeping with a boss and things like that. It's touched on during the film. But anyway, we follow them, obviously, being found footage, and they're going to all these different locations. That they have a bit of a map, and they're looking around and filming these different segments. And then something happens to the sound man, and he disappears. So they're like, shit, what's going on? They're trying to run around and find him, and then the different things happen. I don't really want to, it's difficult to give too much away, but there's a guy at the start that they see. He's like security, and he gains in and finds them, and then he's trying to help them back out, and then something happens to him, and yeah, something or someone is basically following them, and it gets to a very creepy scene with this in the water, And yeah, I don't really want to go too much into this. I mean, it's found footage. It's quite a simple film, and it's all about, I don't want to say jump scares, but it's kind of difficult because it's all underground and it's very, very dark, obviously. And so the jump scares are going to be jumpy anyway. Any scares are jumpy in this film. But what I liked about this is you've actually got decent characters and you're going into this with a decent story and a believable story as to why they're there and the situations that happen and the mistakes that are led to. It's all very believable, and although it's underground and it's done with like there's two cameras. The producer guy has a camera as well as a normal cameraman, and then you've got some like torches in that. But it's filmed really well. It's not scatty. You just run around where you can't like focus on anything. You can always kind of see what's happening, apart from the guy or the thing or whatever it is. Not going to give it away, but whatever's following them, you only see snippets and you never really see clearly, and it just adds to the atmosphere. And yeah, it's just because it's so dark. It's like it's not the it's very claustrophobic, and it's very you're on edge watching it, and it keeps cutting to a couple of members of the crew. It's like an after kind of thing. So they're being interviewed to the events after what happened, but it doesn't take you out of it. It actually adds to the tenseness and the atmosphere because of what they're saying and how they're saying it. It links really well together, and it's a good juxtaposition from being in this grimy tunnel with these cameras and handheld stuff to like an interview setup. And there's some great bits and pieces. It's like the reporter woman, she hears a piece of audio that she's not apparently not heard, obviously for the story. She's not heard it, and then she hears it for the first time, and you hear it correctly for the first time and what there was, and it just really adds to the creepiness of this film. And yeah, it's quite a good end. Like these things, they're always difficult to end, and I like how this is done. It's you're not well. It's kind of it's not really ambiguous. I mean, it's just left open. It's just left open. There's no real evidence that they gather at the end. They don't real get any hard evidence on film, and so it's kind of almost left open. And whatever's situation is down there still, and I kind of quite like that. So, like I said, it's like there's many found footage films, but this is definitely one of the much better ones, much stronger ones, much solid ones, and yeah, I was really impressed with this. I do like my Australian cinema, so not that swayed the kind of me liking the film at all, but yeah, it's an Aussie film, and yeah, The Tunnel. I think there's a couple of films called The Tunnel, but it's pretty obvious. This is the generic cover that you always see. I don't actually know if this has a blue release, but I've just got this. I think yeah, it's an Arrow DVD release. You can pick this up really cheap, but I do recommend it. So thank you very much. That's the end of my review, and I will see you next week. Good night.